You're welcome for yet another session. My name is Nakakawa Sangaruth. We are going to go through the external environment to an organization. Remember, we agreed that when we come to strategic management, we go through quite a number of stages, and we normally have 3 stages in strategic management. Remember, we have the formulation stage, we have the implementation stage, and we have the evaluation stage. Those are the 3 stages. And when we start to formulate, we said that we carefully formulate a strategy of an organization. Here we are. We start with the outside of the organization and we move into the organization. When we looked at the introduction to strategic management, we said that the formulation stage takes quite a number of time. We look at the organization's mission, vision, what the organization wants to achieve, what the organization wants to be. We look at the external environment of the organization. We look at the industry that the organization belongs to. We look at the competitors of the organization. Then we look at the strategic alternatives, the choices, among others. So today we want to look at the external environment to the organization so that we move forward. Why the external environment? Remember, we said that the external environment to the organization doesn't affect day-to-day management of the organization, but if not managed, it affects the organization's future in the long run. So we have to make an assessment of the external environment. Here, we say that this is an important stage in strategic management process because it addresses 3 questions: where the organization is, where does management want the organization to be, where the organization is, what are the organization's objectives, how does the organization move from its present position to where management wants it to be, what strategy is to be used now. Here, when we talk about the organization is a present position, we look at what we have at present. What are the organization's internal capabilities? Because when we know what we are able to know our strengths and we are able to know our weaknesses. That is very important because then it enables us to know where we can go. When we know that we're strong in an area, then we can exploit a given opportunity, or we can safeguard ourselves against any external threats. That means that the external environment composes the competitors in the same industry and the organization and other environmental forces outside the organization, as you can see in the diagram. Through the process of internal organizational analysis, the organization's major internal environment elements can be determined. Therefore, strategic management starts with 3 key areas of analysis. We look at the external environment, we look at the competitors, and then we look at the organization as it is. When we look at the external environment and the competitors, we are able to identify the firm's opportunities and the threats. These are very important, like I've said, because they help us to move from present to the future as all organizations dream. What do we find in an organization's environment? Every organization's environment is unique. That is, in as much as we might be in the same industry, we cannot be facing the same challenges. For example, an organization's environment is different from one environment to another. Organizations in the same, for example, locality producing products for the same customers still face different sets of environmental challenges. For example, I'll give you an example of universities. They are all educating masses, they are all educating people who are mature, but because they have different visions and mission, they cannot be facing the same challenges too. Because some are private and others are government, still they have a different set of environmental challenges. Number 2, environmental challenges are dynamic. That is, factors within the organization's environment are in a state of constant change, both in their direction and magnitude. In as much as last year we had a challenge of COVID, which is more of an economic challenge, this year we might be facing different challenges, maybe more of technology, which has been engineered by the previous situation. So we can't be facing the same challenges from time to time. 3, in as much as organizations can be facing challenges, they're relatively controllable. Means you can manage them. They cannot be challenges that you can't manage. Therefore, there is need for an organization to carry out what we call environmental analysis, and this is done, one, by scanning, by defining the environment, scanning and forecasting the environment, and interpreting the environmental information. What happens when we define the environment? We look at what happens in the environment, and in our definition of the external environment, we have the politics, which is very important. That is where we find the tax policies, the employee laws, regulations, the trade restrictions, among others. 2, we have the economic forces. These are very important because they determine the purchasing power of our potential customers and the firm's cost of capital. That is quite very important. It determines the spending power of the customers. Number 3, we have the social forces, how people behave. This determines the people's consumer behavior, the attitudes, the values, the preferences, name it. They are quite very important. Then technology, among others. After looking at the environment as it is, knowing what we call the Pestl, then we go into scanning and forecasting. What happens here? It is not just enough for management to have an information system. It is just a bare minimum. Within the firm's information system, there must be an intelligence system. The role of this is to isolate from information available the most meaningful elements about the current environment status and about the most relevant future trends. Therefore, there is need for scanning and forecasting. When we're scanning, there are quite a number of approaches that we need to use. Number 1, they're what we call areas of vulnerability approach, and then there are those that are broad-based approaches, as you will see. It is therefore the responsibility of management to carry out this scanning of the environment. And normally we say that the main responsibility for intelligence gathering rests with top management. Why? Because it is top management that has the dream of an organization. It is top management that knows what the organization wants to be in the future. Therefore, top management employee communication must facilitate the upward flow of information from employees, and to ensure this valuable flow, management must undertake suitable rewards when employees communicate useful information must be provided, and prevent negative consequences when employees are suspected or even discovered to have passed on information to wrong people. If management wants to ensure that they are able to gather information, they must maintain awareness of the strategy of the organization to the employees. Managers must cultivate contact with meaningful individuals and organizations. Managers must keep up to date knowledge in their own functional areas. Managers need to pass on information in a form that is increases chances of being accepted among others. Well, after looking at intelligence gathering, there is also what we call environmental forecasting. In a modern day enterprise, even a relatively small one is easily affected by external forces of the environment. Therefore, impact varies from one organization to the other, depending on the number of environmental factors affecting the organization, the speed at which these factors are changing. It is imperative that management of every organization attempts to forecast trends in environmental factors. It may be noted that environmental forecasting is a difficult and error-prone process. However, there are quite a number of methods that we can use to do forecast the environment. Number one, we can use qualitative methods of forecasting. Number two, we can use quantitative methods of forecasting the environment. The method to be employed in scanning the environment depends on the nature of a desired forecast, availability of expertise, and financial resources available. If an organization, most of organizations, by the way, choose to use qualitative forecasting techniques. These depend mainly on educated guesses, opinions, past experiences, and personal judgments, plus maybe intuition of managers. Means that people can sit in a meeting and they forecast what is likely to happen in the future of a particular industry. But we are saying that these ones are normally people who have experience. They've stayed long in an industry, and they can tell what can work and what cannot work. Most of the times when we do use qualitative forecasting techniques, we can go into what we call jury of executive opinions, where a group of managers get together and express their feelings and opinions about a future trend. We can use sales force, people who go out there in the field, because they interact with quite a number of people in the field. Or we can use the Delphi, we can do surveys and opinion polls, we can do customer evaluations, among others. You've bought maybe Omo at one point, and inside it there is a paper that they request you to fill. That is what we call the customer evaluation, among other methods that can be used to collect data that might be needed at a particular point in time. On the other hand, we have quantitative forecasting techniques. In general, quantitative methods of forecasting are more sophisticated, and they are more reliable methods. However, recent advancements in computer and information technology and management information systems have improved the scope and depth of quantitative forecasting techniques. When we carry out quantitative methods of forecasting our environment, we can do what we call time series. A trend of given past period of time is established, and then you're able to extrapolate the future trends. Or you can do regression, where this is a complex mathematical forecasting technique, but one or two input variables are manipulated to predict another input variable. For example, you can look at one area and know that if it is happening or performing like this, then it is likely another area is also likely to be affected. For example, when you look at a fuel today, if it is on the higher side, that means even other sectors have to increase their prices because of fuel prices. And then three, we have econometric modeling, where economic models employ macroeconomic variables, and econometric models attempt to describe the relationship between different sectors of the economy, as you will see in the future. And that is that as far as external environmental factors are concerned. I will go back still. When we look at the external environment of an organization, it is very important for management to, one, identify the characteristics of an organization's environment, two, define the external environment, where we talked about the Pestl, the politics, economics, social, legal, among others. And then after knowing the Pestl, we scan and forecast the environment. Then finally, we go ahead and make interpretations into the environment. And that is that as far as the environment of an organization is concerned.